If I asked you, what's the closest star to Earth, you'd probably say the sun. And yeah, you'd be 100% right. But what if I asked you, what's the closest star to Earth after the sun? Now that's where things get real interesting, because that star is called Proxima Centauri, and scientists have discovered something about this star that could literally change the entire future of human civilization. And the craziest part, there's a whole hidden world near this star where life might actually exist. But at the same time, something absolutely terrifying is going on out there, something that would be a straight-up nightmare for any living thing. Look, first we got to understand just how mind-blowing it is to measure distances in space. Because when we're talking about how far away stars are, we're not talking miles or kilometers, we're talking light years. And a light year means this: light, which is literally the fastest thing in the entire universe, cruising at about 186,000 miles per second, the distance that light covers in one full year, that's what we call a light year. And that distance is roughly 5.88 trillion miles. That number is so absurdly huge that our brains literally can't even process it properly. Now, Proxima Centauri is about 4.24 light years away from us. Sounds like it's not that far, right? But when you convert that into miles, it comes out to about 25 trillion miles. That's 25 followed by 12 zeros. And to put that distance into perspective, let me give you an example. If we sent our fastest spacecraft, Voyager 1, which is hauling at about 38,000 miles per hour, if we pointed it straight at Proxima Centauri, it would take roughly 73,000 years to get there. And think about this. 73,000 years ago, we humans were still living in caves. So yeah, that distance is absolutely mind-boggling. But even still, Proxima Centauri is our closest neighbor out there. And that's exactly why scientists have always had their eyes on this star. Because if we ever want to travel to another star system or pick up some kind of signal from one, Proxima Centauri is our first and most logical choice. And that's why scientists have studied this star super closely. And what they've discovered will genuinely blow your mind. Proxima Centauri is actually a red dwarf star, and what that means is it's way smaller and cooler than our sun. Like, our sun is a yellow dwarf star with a surface temperature of about 9,900 degrees Fahrenheit. Proxima Centauri, only about 5,400 degrees Fahrenheit, roughly half as hot as our sun. And its size is tiny compared to the sun, too. It's actually only about 12% the size of our sun. So if the sun were a basketball, Proxima Centauri would be about the size of a golf ball. Now, you're probably thinking, what's so special about some tiny, dim little star? But this is exactly where the story gets wild, because in 2016, scientists made a discovery that literally shook the entire world. They found a planet called Proxima Centauri b orbiting around this star. And the most shocking part, this planet is sitting right inside its star's habitable zone. Now, understanding the habitable zone is super important because it's one of the most critical concepts in all of science. See, around every star, there's this sweet spot, an area where it's not too hot and not too cold. We call this the Goldilocks zone or the habitable zone. Because if a planet happens to be in this zone, liquid water can exist on its surface, and where there's liquid water, there's a chance for life. Our Earth sits right in the sun's habitable zone. That's why water exists here in liquid form, and that's why life was able to develop. If Earth were a little closer to the sun, all the water would have boiled away, just like what happened on Venus. And if it were a little farther out, all the water would have frozen solid, just like what happened on Mars. So the fact that Proxima Centauri b is sitting in its star's habitable zone, that's a massive deal. Proxima Centauri b is about 1.17 times the size of Earth, so size-wise, it's pretty much Earth's twin, and it completes one full orbit around its star in just 11.2 days. That means 1 year on that planet is only 11 days long. And the reason for that is because it orbits insanely close to its star, only about 4.7 million miles away, which is just 5% of the distance between Earth and the Sun. Now you're probably wondering, if it's that close to its star, how the heck is it still in the habitable zone? And the answer is that Proxima Centauri is a super dim and cool star. Compared to our Sun, it only puts out about 0.0017% as much energy. It's so faint that you can't even see it from Earth with the naked eye. And that's exactly why a planet has to be crazy close to it just to be in the habitable zone. When this planet was discovered in 2016, a wave of excitement swept across the entire world because this was the first time we'd ever found a potentially habitable planet in our closest star system. Scientists immediately started studying this planet, and what they found was equal parts exciting and absolutely terrifying. See, the first interesting thing they figured out about Proxima Centauri b is that it's probably tidally locked. And tidally locked means one side of the planet always faces its star, and the other side is permanently stuck in darkness. Kind of like how our moon is tidally locked with Earth. That's why we only ever see one side of the moon. So what this means is that one side of Proxima Centauri b would be constantly scorching hot, permanent daytime, while the other side would be freezing cold and pitch black, permanent nighttime. And if there's any life there, it would probably exist in the area between these two extremes, what scientists call the terminator zone, where it's not too hot, not too cold, basically a permanent sunset or sunrise kind of vibe. But here's where we hit a major problem, and that problem is Proxima Centauri's behavior, because this star is wildly unpredictable and straight up dangerous. See, red dwarf stars have this thing about them. They're extremely active magnetically, and because of that, they release insanely powerful stellar flares. And Proxima Centauri is basically a pro at this. To understand stellar flares, think about solar flares, the ones that happen on our sun and sometimes mess with stuff here on Earth. Like back in 1859, the Carrington event hit and basically fried the entire telegraph system across the planet. Now, the flares that go off on Proxima Centauri are way more powerful than anything our sun throws out. In 2019, scientists detected a massive stellar flare on Proxima Centauri that was so insane it boosted the star's brightness by 14,000 times in just a few seconds. And this flare bombarded Proxima Centauri b with so much radiation that if there was any atmosphere there, it probably got completely stripped away. And the scariest part? These kinds of flares are super common on Proxima Centauri. According to scientists, multiple major flares go off every single year, and smaller flares happen every few days. And because Proxima Centauri b orbits so ridiculously close to its star, these flares hit it with absolutely devastating force. So now you can see why this planet is both incredibly promising and incredibly hostile at the same time. On one hand, it's a habitable zone planet in our closest star system where liquid water could potentially exist. On the other hand, it's getting constantly hammered by deadly radiation, making survival extremely difficult for any life form. But scientists haven't given up hope. Because here's the thing, life is ridiculously resilient. Right here on Earth, we've seen life survive in the most extreme conditions imaginable, like deep-sea hydrothermal vents where temperatures exceed 750 degrees Fahrenheit. Bacteria are thriving down there. And under the ice sheets of Antarctica, we've found microbial life just doing its thing. So maybe, just maybe, there's some form of life on Proxima Centauri b that has adapted to those brutal conditions. There's another possibility, too. If Proxima Centauri b has a strong magnetic field, it could potentially shield the planet from its star's radiation, just like Earth's magnetic field protects us from the sun's harmful radiation. And if the planet also has a thick atmosphere, that would provide an extra layer of protection on top of that. Now, here's another interesting discovery worth talking about. In 2019, scientists found yet another planet orbiting Proxima Centauri, this one called Proxima Centauri c. And this planet is totally different from the first one. It orbits way farther out from its star, about 1.5 AU away, where AU stands for astronomical unit, which is the average distance between Earth and the Sun. Proxima Centauri c is a super-Earth, roughly 7 times more massive than our planet. And because it's so far from its star, it's not in the habitable zone. Temperatures there would be around minus 380 degrees Fahrenheit, so the chances of life there are pretty slim. But still, this discovery matters because it gives us a much better understanding of the entire Proxima Centauri star system. And then, in 2020, scientists detected signals of yet another possible planet, tentatively called Proxima Centauri's d. If this one gets confirmed, it would be even smaller than Mars and would orbit extremely close to its star. So basically, Proxima Centauri is a whole mini solar system, and it's the closest one to us. That's what makes it so special.